Welcome to another edition of the RDFNL Footy Show, and my name's Yeendy, excited to be with you as always. We've got Tara Murray from the Star Weekly, and look, we finally get back into the footy this week.
I know, we missed it last week. It makes a big difference when you don't have the RDFL on during the weekend, so...
At least you're sort of armed with all this dissecting of all the clubs, so it gives you an idea of how teams are going to trek in the back half of the season.
It is, but then saying that pre-season, my top 4 teams didn't have in any order. Were Macedon, Diggers Rest, Sunbury, Rupo. I had Wallen in 5th. So, good start there. I did have Riddle in 6th, but we'll see how they sort of go. At the moment, I think Romsey's that favourite one to take that other final spot, but season sort of panned out the way I thought it would.
Well, that's the game we'll have a look at first this week, because as we try to determine to see whether your top 6 can start to take shape at the end of round 8, and it is Romsey hosting Riddle. How do you see this one going?
Well, it's Romsey at home, so that's the first thing. Romsey has been really, really good at home. So you've probably got 2 of the younger sides of the competition as well. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how they match up against. It's probably a lot of the future we're seeing in this match.
I think they've won all their home games as well, Romsey, which has been great for them.
It is, and it's always a big thing for them. I know they knocked off Melton Centrals in round 1. That was at home as well. So home ground advantage is massive. Some teams... doesn't matter where they play, but you find in Romsey with their big ground, really play well there.
Exactly, and they're very good defensively. Do Riddle have a chance looking as they look for their 3rd straight win?
I think they do. They're starting to work together as a team a bit more. Obviously, they're going for their 3rd straight win. The week before that, they played Rupertswood, and they weren't overly big. They still lost by 40 odd points, but they didn't let Rupertswood get away with that game. So they are definitely building, and those younger players are starting to get used to playing at senior level. They probably one of the sides really benefited from the week off, give those young guys a break. But I think, it'll be quite interesting. And I am tipping Romsey,
yep.
But I think Riddle is a chance.
And I wouldn't be surprised. I think if Romsey get the job done, it opens up, a 2-game break between 6th and 7th or something to that effect?
Most likely, considering you've got Melton Centrals, which are 3 and 4, they do play Rupertswood. So yeah. I'd say you'd probably be opening up a 2-game break, which is a big gap at this time of year. Yeah,
and that's the next game we'll cover. Melton Centrals versus Rupertswood. The Centrals, they've had a tough month, haven't they?
They have, and it's still pretty hard when you're playing Rupertswood that's coming off their best win of the season. So I think it's going to be Rupertswood pretty easy, but for Melton Centrals, it's yet again playing consistent football and not letting this game blow out. There is a gap between them and Rupertswood. It's making sure that it's not so large, and I think that's their key against these top sides.
Rupertswood, I think they have the equal best first half team in the competition alongside Macedon. So if they start strong in the first half, they're usually hard to beat.
It is, and you look at the 2 games they didn't start well against were Romsey and Macedon, and they lost both of those games.
Yep, so we'll be watching that one with interest as well to see how if Melton Centrals can do well in the first half, maybe tie the Sharks down. It's Diggers Rest versus Broadford. Going back a couple of years ago, this game would have been massive. Well, even last year, this game was massive between the 2 sides. Different ends of the scale now.
It is, and I think the question is how far for Diggers Rest. I think Diggers Rest will want to smash this home. Mm-hmm. They're not going to want a small win. They're going to want a really, really big win.
Yeah, and if they get the 4-quarter win, then there'll be 16 straight quarters in a row that they would have won, and that'll be setting up for the season. But you've sort of asked the question, are they flying underneath the radar? At the end of the day, they're ticking all the boxes to get the wins on the board.
And that's it. And I think that's all they want. They just want to tick the boxes and make sure they're playing good football. Results aren't necessarily the main concern for them. It's not necessarily how far they win, it's how they play. And that's been their biggest thing, is making sure they're playing well. Early on, they were playing well for a quarter, for a half, even 3 quarters. Now it's about playing that 4-quarter football, and that's what they're really starting to do.
Next game we'll cover is Sunbury Kangaroos versus Macedon, which will be live and exclusive on 100.7 Highlands FM. This is probably the game of the round, and look out, the Cats have got another big challenge on their hands.
It is, and I think it's not just a challenge for the Cats, but also a challenge for Sunbury. Sunbury hasn't been able to defeat those sides above them on the ladder. They sit 4th, they've lost to Rupertswood, they've lost to Diggers Rest, and that's the other team above them on the ladder. Sunbury has played well at home, and they kicked really well against the Wind when they played Wallen down there. So they do play that ground well, and I think it'll be quite interesting. If Sunbury Kangaroos can shut Macedon out early, that's the key to that game.
One of the stats I'll be looking forward to is that Sunbury Kangaroos, they are the second best side for first quarters with 6 from 7. They're up against a team that has only conceded just 2 goals for the year, and they've won every quarter by an average of 5 goals. So this is going to be a big one statistically.
It could be, and it could be who wins the toss.
Yep.
Because we do know at Boardman Reserve there is normally a kicking end, so whoever gets that first could be really important in that game. And I think the other thing to look at is the forward lines of both of those sides. Both have a lot of options. Obviously, with Macedon, you've got Jason Cook's leading the goal kicking, but you've got Matthew Knox, you've got Errol McConnell. Sunbury, you've got Ryan Pretty, who sits second in the goal kicking, but also in the top 7, you've got Phil Lobb and Mitch Farmer. So it'll be pretty interesting that you've got several forward options there as well.
Yeah, I think it might come down to the defence, which we'll watch with great interest. Looking for Tegan Henderson to start in the back line there for the Cats, but he'll have a big job because he's got plenty of big numbers up against him. Looking to see if he goes with either Lobb or Pretty. I think that's going to be a great one. And then you've got Gregory and Knox at the other end as well. So there's matchups galore in the forward line and the back line.
Exactly, and both sides have class in the midfield as well. So it's going to be a pretty interesting match. And I think Sunbury needs this win.
Will they get the job done, do you think?
I'll tip the Cats, but I think Sunbury is a chance here. Depends on that first quarter. If they can stop them the first quarter, I think it'll be very close, and I think Sunbury needs a scalp.
We're watching with that one with enormous interest. Rockbank versus Woodend Heskett. Another interesting game because Rockbank are aiming to play a good 4-quarter performance, and the Hawks, well, they're coming off one of the biggest win they've had in a long time against Broadford. Can they sustain that?
Well, that's the question. The Hawks need to sustain that. If they play how they did against Broadford, they will have a massive win. But if they play how they have against some of those other sides, Rockbank could be a small chance. Rockbank's starting to play better football. They're not being completely blown away, and that's the thing for them. Last year, they would have lost games which they lost to Riddle by 40 points. That would have been 100 points last season. That's what they've been a little bit more consistent. So I'm expecting the Hawks to win, but they need to play well. They can't just turn up and expect to win.
Yeah, and Ian Cow Reserve is a hard ground to kick goals at accurately. Like Macedon, they kicked 17 goals 24 a few weeks back, and teams just struggle to kick a big score there anyway, regardless of the conditions.
Exactly. So it'll be quite interesting. I think Hawks will get the win, and it keeps them in that. If they get that win, it keeps them in the mix for finals. There'll be a slight chance because they'd possibly be 1-2 games still outside that top 6, but they need that win if they're going to be in that mix.
Speaking of a team that's well and truly in the mix, it is Wallen. They head to Lansfield for the final game of our discussion. The Tigers, what can they do?
They need to start well. Mm-hmm. I know that's been one of their issues they've had this year.
It's hard, isn't it?
They haven't started well, and Cam White acknowledged that a couple of weeks ago. He said they put a really big focus on it, and then they still started poorly against Broadford. So that's the key for them. They need to start well because they don't quite have the legs to play the 4 quarters. When they're not starting well, they're running out games. When they're starting well, they're not running out games. So for them, it's another case of a side needing to play 4 full quarters. So Lansfield needs to start well to be in the mix. I think Wallen will be too strong, but Wallen probably need to have a few big wins. They're getting the job done. They might be winning by 30, 40 points, winning the last quarter to get over the line. They probably need a big win by 80, 90 points sort of to stamp their authority and probably get a bit of percentage because you are getting your sides like your Sunbury Kangaroos and your Rupert's Wood that are getting really big wins, and that could come down to final positions could come down to percentage. So you've got your Sharks who have a massive percentage which is a lot bigger than Wallen, and they've won the same amount of games at this point of the year.
And the Pies have won 10 of their 15 quarters after the quarter time break or after the 3-quarter time break. So traditionally, they're not strong starters at the start of the game and then coming off the half-time break.
So we could have a very low-scoring first quarter because neither of these sides are really good first quarter teams.
Well, I guess you could throw the stats out the window, but they have been quite consistent throughout the year. So it's going to be a cracking round of footy, round 8 of the RDFNL. Tara, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for having me.